Welcome back to Alpha Art Gallery's Meet the Artist series. My name is Giovanna Abdu, and I'm here with David Gothard, who is an exhibiting artist for the New Brunswick Art Salon Watercolor and Mixed Media exhibition. Hi, David. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Um, so let's just jump right into the questions. First question we have for you today is, your artist statement mentions utilizing a combination of humor and pathos to create art that transforms a spectator's perspective the more they look at the piece. Why is it important for your artwork to facilitate that journey?
Well, I've always felt like the most palatable way to present the truth or difficult topics is with humor. So that's why all the great comedians can get away with telling the truth while others can't. So if an image can amuse somebody and draw somebody in and then deliver the goods, I always feel like that's the most successful scenario. So I try to combine the two in that I'm often working with difficult topics and trying to tell the truth, as all artists do. And so by creating a humorous image and then hiding the difficult subject matter within allows the viewer to kind of slowly engage the art. It gives it a little more lasting time, sustainability.
Thank you for your answer. I definitely agree. I think you do a great job of that. When I look at your pieces, I get drawn in by just how illustrated it is, but the more I keep looking, the more insight I find into it. So I think you do a fantastic job of that. You
Thank
also
you.
you also mentioned that your approach to drawing has shifted throughout the years. So what has your drawing evolved into, and what experiences help lead you to where you are today?
I think fundamentally speaking, in the arts, drawing is kind of like a building block for everything else. So if you learn the eye-hand-brain coordination of drawing, you can go on to entertain any kind of discipline within the arts and do it better. So drawing has always been very important to me, and so I've you know tried different kind of methods and approaches over the years. When I first began my career, my work was far more detailed, and then it kind of shifted into a more visceral way of drawing. I was influenced by Goya and Kitty Kollwitz and people like that, and I wanted to put a lot more emotional impact into the drawing, so I kind of switched to charcoal and mediums that were a little more gritty. And then my work became kind of fast paced, doing a lot of work for publications like the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Boston Globe, and it's all very quick turnarounds. It's journalism, it's all happening as we speak. And so I developed a kind of shortcut way of working and an even more visceral way of working by turning to the brush and ink, because the brush is a very emotional kind of tool. And so, yeah, most of my work now has shifted into ink and watercolor, and I feel like it gets to the message quicker than other mediums might.
Fantastic. So going a little deeper into the watercolor that you are primarily working with now, you often depict personalities, notable figures at that, that include poets like John Keats, John Milton, T.S. Eliot, as well as Walt Disney, a renowned illustrator. These figures were prominent from the 17th to the 20th century and still remain relevant today. So what narrative or narratives are you trying to portray by depicting these various figures?
Well, each of these artists have their own way of speaking to us. And so it's important for me when I do a portrait of an artist of any kind, whether they be a poet or a writer or a musician, is to first get to the heart of what they're doing. And I'm not as interested in doing a straight up portrait. There are many artists that do that very well, and that's their thing. But my thing is less that and more getting to, in a conceptual way, more getting to the heart of what they are all about. And so a lot of my imagery is about their work and kind of trying to get very quickly to what it is that they do that's very special and very different.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, you are portraying these iconic figures, but you are also drawing on the complexity of the human experience as a whole. Can you provide insight into what influences your art? Do you draw on inspiration from literature, media, or just general observations of the human condition?
Yeah, well, I'm far less interested in rhetoric and more about connecting with the kind of humanity of the topic or the person, whoever or whatever I'm illustrating at the moment or depicting in my drawings. So, we've become a very polarized society where rhetoric rules the day and everything's in little snippets and sound bites. So I try to dismiss all of that and then create an image that anybody, no matter where they lie, in their political spectrum or their philosophies about life, their sensibilities, that they can connect with the image and it speaks to them. So that's kind of primarily what I'm after.
Fantastic. So, how do you balance the individualism of the figures you are portraying with kind of the universality of certain aspects of the human experience? You mentioned you want to make it so that anyone, no matter like what their political spectrum is, can like view your art. So, can you just provide a little more insight on how you achieve doing so?
Yeah, I think that as artists evolve, they learn a lot about themselves and their philosophies and sensibilities, and they separate, because the idea of art is that you're singular and your voice is separate from the rest. Unlike, let's say, I don't know. If you're in a math class, everybody's working on an equation, trying to get the same answer, which is different than math theory, which moves into the art world. But when you're an artist, you're really trying to separate and create a unique and singular voice. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but yeah.
Fantastic. I think it did answer the question. So, thank you for your response. You are mostly working with watercolor and ink, and I'm curious as to what drew you to these mediums. Did you always know you wanted to work with watercolor and ink?
No, not really. I think it was a slow evolution, experimenting with different mediums, trying different things out, matching the medium to the message. And I think watercolor was something that always attracted to me. It was attracting me because it's got a kind of translucency, transparency, and you can kind of layer the effects. There's a lot of atmosphere in watercolor. And my father was a painter and worked primarily in oils. So I was surrounded by oil paintings all the time and wanted to depart from that and do my own thing. So I was kind of lured towards watercolor in that way. And ink is a very, very graphic and expressive medium. So it was kind of a natural fit for me.
Great. I have to agree. I do really like the translucency of watercolor. I think it makes it very appealing. So I'm with you on that. But in addition to being an artist, you are also a teacher, children's illustrator, and you've worked with notable editorials and magazines, like you've mentioned, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, and Times Magazine. Have these additional roles and experiences affected how you view or create your art?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all kind of a collective experience, right? I mean, what we read and what we listen to and who we bring into our lives, it all becomes influences. And in teaching, it's a two-way street. So as much as I give my students, they return, and it becomes a continuous dialogue in that way. And so you're always evolving, and you're exposed to new ideas. And I think teaching is a very important part of my aspect. I was a studio artist for a couple of decades before I even thought about teaching, and I think that's important too. Is that you have a little of experience that you can bring to the classroom, so that you're teaching a hands-on way of creating art and not just theory.
Great. And then lastly, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't already covered?
No, I think your questions were excellent, and I thank you for them.
Fantastic. So, well, David, thank you so much for being here with us today. We can't wait to see your work at our upcoming watercolor and mixed media exhibition, which will be on view from November 5th, 2024 to January 11th, 2025. Thank you again for being here with us today and have a great rest of your day.
It was my pleasure. Thanks, Giovanna.